Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you're listening, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here with day 73 of our Be a Better You annual challenge. Doing one thing every day to be a better person, be a better version of ourselves, to continually improve. So today, our topic with respect to communication, because we're focusing on communication this entire month, is open and closed communication. We're going to talk about what characteristics are in each of the two different styles, and they're pretty much opposites, but we're going to talk about when to use them, and then I'm going to make a recommendation with respect to how to handle open and closed communication styles based on decades of experience, at least 5 decades of experience. So today, did I have this upside down? That's hilarious. Open and closed communication. This is a graphic I did about open and closed mindset, but it's the same thing, right? Do we have an open door policy? I think of this as back in corporate America. Do we have an open door policy, a closed door policy? Because that's the most visual example I can think of the differences between the two. I'm just going to set this over here. We're going to talk about what are the characteristics of open mindset versus closed mindset. Open communication. Let's talk about communication since that's what we're focused on. Open communication is characterized by transparency, meaning information flows freely without unnecessary things to bog it down or unnecessary complications. It involves active listening, meaning we're present when we're listening or having a conversation with someone. We're not off doing, or our brain isn't off in 5 or 6 different places. It also encourages feedback. It's a two-way conversation, not just a one-way conversation. And finally, it's non-judgmental. You're not judging, you're just listening to understand and learn what is the situation. Closed communication, on the other hand, where would be a good place to use open communication before I jump to close? Team meetings. Team meetings, department head meetings, believe it or not, are a good place to use open communication. Everybody doesn't believe that, especially the person in charge sometimes, but they truly are. Closed communication, on the other hand, is more one-directional. It's more up-down, top-down type communication, meaning it's there's limited information disclosed and shared. It's not transparent. It's on a need-to-know basis. I think of military or security things or things like that. I think of, hey, only people that need to know have access to the information. Think security clearances, right? So it's limited information sharing, top-down, and on a need-to-know basis. It is minimal feedback's encouraged. It's like, hey, we're just informing you. We don't want to know what you think about this, how you feel about it. We're just letting you know. It's direct and decisive. It's used most for, in my opinion, emergency situations, security situations, things that need to be kept secret. Now, when I was in corporate America, what everybody made and what they were paid and how they were compensated was a big taboo secret. I don't know if it's still like that. I haven't been in corporate America for a couple of decades personally as an employee, so I don't know. But it was always a big taboo subject. And it was because upper management, the leadership of the company, was not wanting to be transparent because they weren't paying people fairly and equally, right? That's the only reason you're not transparent is either it's security, secrecy, and secrecy is usually because you don't want somebody to know something, right? You don't want to let out your competitive secrets and your competitive advantages and I was this way about my Italian food manufacturing business. You couldn't come in and take pictures. I didn't care what auditor you were. You weren't coming in and taking pictures of my facility because we had a lot of processes and procedures and equipment that was proprietary. It was protected by law and by copyright laws and production and patents and things because we didn't want people to find it out because then we would lose our competitive advantage in certain markets in certain areas. So I think of that often as a regulatory, as a closed type of communication as well. So what do you use open versus closed communication for? Open team collaborations. If you want people to collaborate and work together as a team, you have to let everybody communicate with one another, and it has to be an open round table type thing. It can't be somebody that's superior lording down on people. For employee engagement, if you want to know what's going on in your company, what do? You ask the people that work in your company, and they will tell you everything you need to know. Just like I say, if you ask your customers or anybody questions or anything, they will tell you everything you need to know to help them, to solve a problem, to work with them, to improve your communication, to improve your relationship, etc. They're great. Open communication is best for conflict resolution, right? If there's a conflict between two people, the best way to resolve that is to be open and honest and authentic in your communication. Hey, when you did this, this hurt my feelings, and this is why. Or when you said this, I felt X. And you don't have to justify why you said something. You just have to understand that it had a negative impact on me. Innovation and creativity. We want to come up with creative, brainstormed, fun, innovative solutions. We want to use open communication. Best situations for closed communication, on the other hand, are, like I said, crisis management. If we have a flood, if we have a natural disaster, if we have a crisis that we're dealing with, think COVID pandemic, that crazy mess, sometimes closed communication is necessary. Hey, this is what's happening. We've been shut down by the government. We will not be operating until we figure out a way that we can operate that meets the current stipulations or rules set up by whoever the beings that were in charge told us we had to close our businesses were, etc. Confidentiality matters. That's like I'm talking about the competitive advantage. When things are confidential, they're confidential for a reason, and it usually involves our proprietary processes, for example, in manufacturing. Legal or compliance situations. I don't know if you've ever had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I have, meaning I can have information, but I'm not allowed to share that information about a person, place, or thing. There can be legal or compliance stipulations, and those are, hey, this is the way it is. You just can't talk about it. Again, I think military and emergency services and different situations for national security or for our business security, etc. Some of those are on a need-to-know basis, right? Hey, the security department needs to know, the IT department needs to know, but everybody in the company doesn't need to know, because that's how information leaks, and we have challenges and problems in our organizations. So I was going to talk about Jake, who is a new leader's use of both of these types of communication. Like many of us, when you first get in a leadership role, you tend to be more of a closed communicator, meaning you don't necessarily have an open door policy. You don't necessarily want people questioning your every move, your every decision, your every action, your every thought. But that's how Jake started out. And he found that over time, that wasn't working for him. There was low morale on his team. He was a team manager, a team leader, and a new team leader. And it's why it's so important that we train and teach and coach people as they move into different positions in our organizations or in our lives, how to treat us, right? How to treat us, how to communicate with us, boundaries, etc. And he was finding that the team was not happy with him. They were not performing. They were, it wasn't working. And so he started to adopt more open communications type activities and styles, and his team started to respond. They just wanted to be part of the process, right? They wanted to know what and why things were happening, which I think as a middle manager, that's your most important job, or as a leader in anything, your job is to be the go-between between whoever is making the rules, what the rules are, and explaining them to in a way that people in your organization understand and accept and adopt them. Every organization I've ever worked in, whether it's a business organization or a private organization or a fundraising or a nonprofit, they all have ways they do things. And sometimes those ways are just plain stupid, but they don't want to be told they're stupid. So you have to find a way around communicating both up and down the chain what works and what doesn't work, why it's not working, and ways to improve it. Not just bitching, moaning, and complaining about why something isn't working, but a solution to, hey, maybe we could try this to see if this would get us better results. And if we learn to take a situational approach, this is my advice. Now, people would say balance open and closed communication. And I'm going to say that's kind of BS. It's not. Everything is situational, especially as the world is changing so fast. I think if we lean toward authenticity, truth, openness, and honesty as much as possible, we're going to win. And then in the few situations where closed communication is essential, then we use that and people understand. You can explain to people, hey, this is a security issue. This is a confidentiality issue for our business. This is a competitive advantage, thing that we're not going to share because it's confidential. And People will argue with you. I will tell you, there were many an auditor that argued the living daylights out of it with me and said, well, this is just the way the USDA does it. We're going to take pictures. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? No, you're not, because I can call my attorney and he will explain to you that you do not have a legal right to take photographs in my organization as part of your auditing process to make it easier for you, by the way, so you don't have to write down things and take notes. So I get that, and people are more willing to accept that. All right, I'm going to get this phone call. Have an awesome day. Any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, I'll